it'll do it. It's just really phenomenal to see what the AI can do inside here. And so we're going to look at that a little bit. We're going to look at selection tools. And because one of the most powerful things in Photoshop is the ability to select a portion of the image and then manipulate just that portion. And so, like, for instance, that little picture I've got on the screen right now of the red little house sitting on the hill. Um, we could select just that house and change the color of the house if we wanted to, or we could make the house smaller or larger, or whatever we wanted to do there without affecting the rest of the image that we would be looking at. So that's really, really good to have in selections. If we wanted the grass on the hillside there to be greener, we could select just the grassy area down there and we could make the grass greener or add more grass to it or different. We're pretty much unlimited what we can do. So making selections is very, very important. And then in addition to selections, understanding how layers work. If you look over here on the far right-hand side of my screen right now, I've got the layer panel open here. I'm going to drag it over here just a little bit and see if I can make it a little larger so you can see it a little better. Let's see here. Hold on. So that's the layer panel over there. And you'll notice there's a layer with the picture on it, and there's a layer with the words on it. So the reason I did this with layers is so that I can, if I wanted to, I could turn the text off just simply by clicking this little eyeball right here. So if I click that little eyeball, it turns the text off. And so that layer allows me to do things to just the text layer, and it doesn't affect the image down there. So that's what I wanted. I want to make sure we're good and solid on layers. I want to make sure that by the end of the classwork, we understand how to manipulate images and how to change the brightness and the contrast and how to make it sharper or how to make it even blurry. If we want something to be blurry in the background, we can do that. So I want you to be able to take an image and be able to make it look the way that you want it to look. Okay. Now, as we work through this class over the next few weeks, please feel free at any time at all to speak up and ask a question. Okay, if you don't, if I'm going too fast, hey, say Steve, slow down just a little bit. Okay, and I'll be glad to do it. Sometimes I get kind of excited with Photoshop, and I tend to talk a little fast. But I'm going to try to hold myself back and not do that quite so much. Okay. So anyway, but if you do have a question, be sure and ask me about the question. I'm going to have some homework assignments each week for you to do. You're going to love doing that. And as you're working through the assignments, if you have a question during the week, you know, when you're working on the assignment, they're not hard. When you're working on the different little assignments, please feel free to email me. Okay. So I'm going to put my email address over here in the chat window. There it is right there. And I'm going to type in src@utk.edu. So that's my email address. If you are a Microsoft Teams user, you can find me just by typing in Stephen Chastain. Okay. And you can find me in Teams that way, and you can message me right there. I can be reached at either place. Teams is probably the quickest way to get in touch with me. But if you want to send an email, that's just fine and dandy. I'm happy to respond to emails too. Okay. So don't get frustrated with it. Okay. So just if you have a question, be sure and reach out to me and let's work on this thing together and see what we can figure out. Sound good? All right. So I'm going to move layers over here to the side just a second, and I want us to take a look at just some of the let's call it the interface of Photoshop. Okay. So the thing you need to know about Photoshop is, and I'm making a big assumption here. I'm assuming that everyone has access to Photoshop. Okay. If you don't have access to Photoshop, you can reach out to the technology store there on campus, and they can tell you how to get an educational version of it. You can either purchase Photoshop just as a single application, or you can purchase the entire Creative Suite, Creative Cloud Suite, they call it. So whichever one works best for you, they can tell you about the pros and the cons of each and help you decide which one to make. But I'm assuming right now that everybody has access to Photoshop. Now, if you do not have access to Photoshop, I know that over in Hodges Library and on many of the computers over there, particularly the ones in front of the studio, they have Photoshop on there. And so if you needed to go over there and practice or something like that, that's available to you in that particular library on campus. I'm not sure about the other libraries, but I know that Hodges does have it. Okay. All right. Excuse me, I had to clear my throat for a second. All right, so let's take a look at the interface here and just see what's going on. I'm going to move our pictures over here to the side where I can see everybody. And I'm going to try to keep an eye on the message window over here. But y'all, if I don't see the message, just speak up and vocalize your question or something like that, and I'll do my best to answer it. Okay. All right, Photoshop. Let's get in here. So we open Photoshop up, and the first thing that opens up is it's not this particular screen. It's another screen that shows you your past and present work that you're working on, your libraries and things like that. But that window's so easy to navigate, I didn't even bother with having it up here. So in Photoshop, you'll notice at the very top of the page up here. Now, I'm a Mac user, okay, so my screen may look a little bit different than yours. Don't fret, they're pretty much the same. Top of the screen, lots of menus up here, okay? Just file, edit, image, layer, type, select, so forth, okay? So lots and lots of tools available to you up there at the top in dealing with different images, okay? For instance, if we were working on here, I'm just going to go over here and select the background image, and I think I'll delete the text layer. So it's a good thing to learn right here. I can click on the text layer and left click and drag it down here to the trash can, and I can delete that layer and get rid of it. Okay, now I'm going to duplicate this image right here. Now, I am a big advocate of shortcuts. Okay, they just save you a lot of time. Okay, and the more you use shortcuts, the more they'll just be kind of drilled into your head. Okay, and so one of the shortcuts that I use when I want to duplicate a layer. Okay, so that if I don't want to work on my master layer, I can work on my duplicate layer instead. That way, I'm working non-destructively. Okay, so to duplicate a background, all I have to do is hold down the Command or the Control key, okay, and hit the letter J, okay? And then you'll notice that now we have two layers of the background image over there, okay? So Command or Control J will duplicate any layer that is active on the screen at the time, okay? So let's say we've got this image open here right now, and we want to do something to it. Well, if I want to do something to the image, I'm probably going to go up here to this menu at the top that says image, right? So I'll click that, and you'll notice that under mode, I can change it to RGB to lab color. I can change it anywhere from 8 to 32-bit, okay? That's kind of detailed for what we're looking at right now. You could probably just leave that on RGB and 8. You're going to be just fine on most things that you work for. Now, there's a lot of adjustments here. If I hover over adjustments, notice all the different types of adjustments we can make to this image. We can change the brightness and the contrast, the levels, the curves. We can change the coloration, which is this second set of images right here. And we can invert the image. Maybe we'll change it to like a reverse all the colors or something like that. We can polarize it, all kinds of fun things here. We can take a look at the shadows and highlights, and we can adjust those a little bit. We can desaturate the image, such as maybe make it a little more black and white, but not completely black and white. Okay, so we can make different changes right in there. Excuse me. All right, so lots of different adjustments we can do right there. And don't get confused or don't get frustrated. I'm going to go over every one of these in time, okay? There's some auto features here. For instance, if I wanted to do an auto tone, it would go in here and change all the tonalities automatically for me. Do the auto tones always work? No, not really. But they're a good little starting place sometimes. You may want to play with them, just see what they do, just have some fun. I can do image size. Changes right here in this area right here. So you can see I can change the size of the image. I can change the size of the canvas. And you say, well, what in the world's the difference, Steve? Well, the canvas is the piece of paper, if you will, that this picture's laying on. Okay. So, for instance, if I went in here and said I wanted to change the canvas size, and what it's going to do, it's going to extend this canvas out here, and it's going to look like a white border around the image right there. Okay, and what that allows you to do is expand the picture also, if you'd like to. We'll play with that some too. Rotating images, that's pretty self-explanatory right there. Okay, it just spins the image around. Okay. Now we can trim it. We can duplicate the image. That's the same thing as the Control J that we did just a minute ago. And just lots of other fun things we can do here. Now, on the next menu area over here is layers, okay? And this has to do with everything dealing with layers that you're going to work with in here, okay? Now, lots of other tools here that we're going to be playing with over time, but I just wanted you to know at the top of the page, there's a lot of tools up there, okay? Now, let's look over here on the left-hand side of the page. So we know we have tools up at the top edge of the page, okay? Now, on the left side of the page, there's a lot of tools over there too, right? Okay. Now, one of the things I want you to notice here is that when you see, do you see, like for instance, on the paintbrush tool here, there is at the bottom right-hand corner of that tool icon, if you will, there's a little arrow. Do you see that little arrow sitting there? That little arrow, anytime you see that in Photoshop or any of Adobe's products, it is going to say, hey, there's more tools under here than what you're seeing on top. So if you just click and hold on that little arrow, more tools are going to pop out. So you'll notice right now, you see the little dot right here. It tells me the brush tool is active. But if I wanted to use the pen tool, I could do that. Or if I wanted to do the color replacement tool, I could do that. Lots of different tools under here. And you're going to notice on just about every one of these tools, there's another set of tools underneath there. Okay. I've had students in the past say, well, Steve, when I look at the tools over here, there aren't that many tools available in Photoshop. It shouldn't be too hard to learn. Well, that was before they started looking at all these drop down windows. Okay. Because there's a lot of tools in Photoshop. And they're not only tools here and tools across the top, but one thing you're going to notice is every time you select a tool, the properties bar, which is this bar right up here, okay? This bar is going to change in relation to the tool that you select. For instance, if I go down here and select the T, okay, that's the text tool. Notice that when I select the text tool, this property bar up here changes completely, okay? Because what it's showing me the properties that I can apply to the text tool, okay? So if I select the text tool, I can go here and select the font that I want, what type of font, whether I want it to be bold or italics or strong or whatever, okay? And I can select the size that I want it to be. I can choose the justification, the color, and even the curvature of the text, okay? So a lot of nice tools right there under that. Those are the properties. But if I go up here and select the lasso tool right up here at the top, watch what's going to happen. Notice it changed again on what that tool looks like. If I select this tool right here, that changes there. If I select this one, that changes there. So just know that every tool that you select, there's going to be properties related to that tool across the top of the page. Okay? Does that make sense so far? I hadn't scared you away, have I? All right. I'm hoping not. Okay. So that's those tools. So we got tools across the top. We got tools down the side. We got properties for the tools. Way over here on the right-hand side, we have a lot of different palettes to work with, y'all. This is what makes Photoshop so fun because you can go in here and it gives you complete control over the image that you're working with. Okay. So I wanted you the windows that the panels they call it, that we're going to be referring to the most over the next few days is going to be the layers. Okay. Lots of layer panels in here that we're going to work with because they're going to help us be able to adjust pictures without affecting the entire picture. Okay. All right. Now, what I want you to notice on here, I'm going to drop my layer panel way down here. Now, notice that there's two panels, there's two layer panels over there. There's the background layer, and there is the duplicate layer that we created over there. Now, what I like to do is I like to go in here and name my layers. Okay. So it makes it easier. So if I get 15 or 20 layers in an image, I'm able to find the different layers really quickly. For instance, let's go right here, and where it says layer one, I'm just going to double click. Okay. And you notice it highlights it. And I'm just going to call it black and white. Okay. So now I named this layer is still the background, and notice it has a little lock over here on the far right hand side of this layer. Okay, that tells me that layer's locked. Can't do a lot with it. Okay, and that's good because that preserves your original image. Okay, now if I go here to this black and white layer, let's say I want to change that layer to black and white, but I want to leave this one like it is right there. Okay, all right, well, I'm just going to go up here and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to just change it. You know what? I'm going to do it a different way, do it something a little bit easier for you. I'm going to go to black and white layer. I'm going to go over here to the right-hand side where it says adjustments. Okay. And there's lots of adjustments we can make over here. Okay. But the one I want to look at is hue and saturation. And I'll pull that down, and then this opens up here. Okay. Now the middle window says saturation. So I'm just going to pull the saturation all the way off. Okay. Notice what happens when I pull the saturation. When I pulled all the saturation out of a picture, it turns black and white, doesn't it? Okay. If I pull it the other direction, look at there, it gets really oversaturated, right? So I wanted to make that layer black and white, so I'm going to put it like that. Okay. Now, this other little layer down here talks about lightness. Okay. So that's going to be how dark or how light the picture is, right? I'm just going to pull this a little bit to the right and darken it a little, or maybe a little bit to the right to brighten it a little. Totally up to you. Whatever looks good to you, you're going to be able to make that adjustment. Okay. So that's the beginning of adjustments. Now, notice what has happened here. Notice when I told it that I wanted an adjustment layer, which was this over here, I went to adjustment and I chose the kind of adjustment layer that I wanted, right? It created a layer for that adjustment. Now, watch this. See that little eye right there? Okay. If I click on that little eyeball, notice it turns off that adjustment. Okay. So I can make the adjustment, but then I can turn it on and turn it off. Okay. Whatever I want to do. So if I need to look at just bits and pieces of it, I can turn it on and off just to see what kind of change it was making. Okay. All right. Now, notice that in this layer, it put this large white box. Okay. That large white box is what Photoshop calls a mask. Okay. Now, what that mask allows us to do, it allows us, let's see, let me think of an easy way to say this. The mask is covering up what is below. That's pretty easy to understand, isn't it? So what's it covering up here? This mask is covering up this color picture, right? The mask covers whatever is directly below it. Make sense? Okay. All right. If it doesn't, now you tell me, okay? Because I don't know. I can't see your pretty faces. All right. So one of the fun things you can do with the mask that is really interesting to play with is that if I if I select this mask by clicking on it, notice I clicked it, and now there's a box around it. If I come over here to the tools on the left-hand side, and I click the paintbrush tool, or the brush tool as they call it. Okay. Now, If I look down here at the bottom of the tool rail, I notice there's a black square and a white square. All right. The black square, the one on top tells me the color that is currently selected. Okay. The bottom picture here, the white one in that case, tells me the color that is underneath. It's a secondary color. Now, this particular mask over here is white, isn't it? Now, here's what's interesting. If I take the paintbrush and I choose the black color, okay, the opposite of the max matte color, okay, and if I go in here and I paint with that black color, notice what it's going to do. Now, I'm being really sloppy here, but that's okay. I just wanted you to see what's happening here. Okay. So, do you see what's happening? Notice up here on the mask where it painted black, it's bringing back the color that's underneath. Isn't that cool? Okay. Now, maybe we wanted some of the red in the roof to show up. Well, we just come up here and we paint with that black color. Okay. Now, of course, we would be a lot more careful with our painting and stuff like this, but I wanted you to just get an idea of what's happening here. Okay. Look at that, y'all. So, what it's doing, we created that adjustment, right? When we created the adjustment layer, it created a mask for us, and I just painted black on that on the picture, which applied it to the mask. Okay. And it shows me what's underneath. How can I see everything that's underneath? I can just turn that layer off, right? Just like that. Turn it off and turn it on. All right. Pretty nice, huh? So we can go in there and change we can make bits and pieces of the picture color or black and white or whatever we want it to be. All right. Now that's a lot of fun right there. That's a good way to do adjustments, and it helps you also see what is happening with the layers. Okay. So you can see how powerful layers are now. All right. Now, I'm going to dump this layer right here. So I'm going to click and drag it down here to the trash can and let it go. And that adjustment layer is gone. And we're back to the original picture that we started with. All right. Now, let's talk about selections just for a minute, because I told you that selections were really, really important. And I wanted you to be able to know how to make a selection. Now, over the past 2 or 3 years, Photoshop has made making selections a breeze. They have made it really easy. It used to be that we had to use a lot of fancy selection tools, and it could be difficult at times to make a selection. But if I go on here now and I click, I can go up here to the select menu, and I can look at all the different kinds of selections that it can make. Okay. Now, I think what I wanted to select in here is the sky. Okay. So there's a sky selection right there. And I'll just click it and watch what's going to happen. It's going to look at it. It takes a moment for it to figure it out, but look what it has done. Do you see we call them marching ants? Do you see the marching ants working their way around this area right here and then working its way around the house? Look at that. We now have a selection of just the sky. I mean, that's pretty cool right there. Just to click one button, I went to select and chose sky, and boom, there's the sky chosen for me. All right. Now, remember, I told you that anything that is selected, we can duplicate it on another layer. Okay. So this is selected right here, right? Okay. So let's duplicate it. We're going to hit the Command or Control button, and we're going to hit J. Now look what we have up here. I'm going to turn these other two layers off. Look at here. Now we have a layer that is only the sky. Look how good that selection is, y'all. I mean, that's incredible that it can do that for us. Okay. So I'll turn these layers back on, and I want to just adjust the sky right there. Okay. I'm going to make the sky look a little prettier. Okay. So I make sure that that layer is highlighted. Now, how do I do that? I just click on a layer. Okay. Whatever layer I want to work on, I click it and then that layer is selected. That makes sense? Okay. So if you want to work on this layer, you click on it. If you want to work on this layer, you click on it. All right. So we've got that done right there. So let's do it a little adjustment right here. Okay. Let's go over. So we've got the layer selected. Let's go over to where it says adjustments on the right hand side. Okay. And I tell you what, let's do brightness and contrast. That's real easy. Okay. So we'll do brightness and contrast. And when we choose that tool, there again, it gives us a new layer, right? And it gives us a couple of adjustments that we can make to the sky in this case. So for instance, if I wanted the sky to be darker, I'd pull it to the right. Okay. And notice it's only affecting the sky. Okay. So I pull it that way a little bit if I want to. All right. But if I pull the contrast over, it's going to change the contrast of the image. Now, I want you to see something. Notice that this adjustment now is affecting the entire image. Do you see that? Can you see how it's affecting the entire image? I didn't want it to affect the entire image. I only want it to affect the image below it. Okay. So if I click right here and I lay my cursor right between the middle of those two layers and I hold down the alternate key and I click one time, then what it's done, it has, let's say it's hooked. That's a good word. It has hooked this adjustment only to the sky. Okay. So I held down the alternate or option key. Okay. And I clicked right in the middle there and it tied them together. Now watch this. Now, when we hit the brightness of the sky, notice it's only affecting the sky. It's not affecting the grass and other areas like that. Okay. So that's one of the beautiful parts about layers here is that we can make adjustments to just small areas of the picture. All right. Questions so far? Okay, we're just covering a few basics today, and we're going to get into more detail the next time. Okay. Now, let me show you something else that's really fun. If I go right here on this layer, that selection layer, that had the sky on it, if I hold down the command or the control button and I click that selection, it's going to illuminate, if you will, that selection. See all the little lines, the dotted lines that are marching around the image right there. Okay. All right. So just holding down the command or control and clicking the selection, I'm able to go in there and do that. Okay. It reselects it. If I right click on this, let's see, where's it going to let me do it? Oh, I know where it is. So if I go to the selection now and I go up here to select, okay, I can modify the selection. I can change it. One I want you to see is I can invert the selection. So if I invert the selection, notice now the sky is not selected, but it's the grass and the building. You see that? You see the dotted lines down here now? Okay. And because it's selected, if I do a Control J, okay, it's going to make a selection of just that. It's going to duplicate that for us right there on the screen. We don't really want that much duplication, so we're going to turn that off. Okay. All right. So I just wanted you to see that we can make a selection and then we can invert the selection so we can make different kinds of changes. All right. Now, that's kind of an overview of layers, just a real basic overview. And what I want to do is show you a couple other things that we can do with layers. Okay. So I'm going to go up here and go ahead and get rid of that layer. Okay. And I'll keep our duplicate layer right here. Now, what I want to do is I've got a couple of other images open here. Okay. I've got this particular little image of a boat. And then I've got another image. Where was it over here? Yep. This little image right here. Okay. friend of mine in New Zealand took that just last week and she sent it to me. She said, "Look where I'm having lunch." And I was so jealous. Anyway, um, so we have lots of different pictures here and things we can work with. So what I want to do, I think I would like to take this boat, okay, over to this water scene right here. Just the boat, nothing else, just the boat. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go select and let's just see if it can see the boat as the subject. I'm not so sure that it can, but let's try it and see. So I'm going to click subject. Yep, it did a pretty good job. Now you're going to notice it went all the way around it with the subject. But if you look right down here, you'll notice it missed part of the boat, didn't it? You see that? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I've got this selection tool right here selected. Okay. And I'm just going to go on here and slowly paint along that edge to increase the selection. Okay. Now you see it's going all the way down it. It's looking pretty good. Okay. So now what I want to do is I want to copy the boat and take it over to the other picture. All right. So you know you've probably done it in Word and different Microsoft products before. If you hold down the Command key and hit the letter C, that means copy. Okay. So if I hold the Command or Control and I touch the letter C on my keyboard, it copied it. Now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do a Command or Control V for paste. V as in Victor. And I'll paste it. And notice it puts that boat right there in the picture. It's kind of over dominating the picture, isn't it? So we need to adjust it a little bit. But you see now that we can go over here, we can make a selection in one picture, and then we can come into another picture and we can paste it right into that picture, just making selections. Okay. Just simple little selections. All right. Now what I want to do is I want to adjust the size of this boat just a little bit, okay? Now notice it created a layer with just the boat on it, okay? I can turn that layer on and off by hitting the eyeball, remember? Okay? So if I'm on that layer and I want to resize that image right there, okay? I'm just going to go over here and get the very top tool. They call it the Move tool, okay? I'm going to get that tool. And I'm going to lay my cursor on one of the corners of the image. You see that happening right there? Okay. I'm just laying my cursor. And when I lay it on one of the corners, it changes it to like a double-headed arrow. Okay. Now, I want to make sure that as I reduce the size of this image, that it stays in perspective. And here's what I mean. If I don't mash down a key to make it stay in perspective, notice what's happening is it's just stretching it all over the place. And that's just not what we want to do, is it? Okay. So if I hold the Shift key down and I click and drag, notice that the boat stays in perspective. Okay. Now, I'll do it kind of like that. That looks pretty good. And I think I might like to have the boat sitting maybe right over here. Maybe they pulled it up on shore just a little bit. All right. So there we go. Now we move the boat from that other picture over here. Now we'd probably have to do some adjustments on the color of it. It's a little bit, the coloration's a little different than the picture around it, but that's no problem. We can work on that. That's not a problem there at all. Okay. Now, so we've moved the boat. Now we can move the boat anywhere we want to. Okay. You can, if you want to make it smaller, and make it where it's just sitting out there in the water, just holding down the Shift key and dragging it. So maybe it's sitting out there and it's a pirate ship or something. I don't. Okay. So you can make it any size you want it just by holding down the Shift key, grabbing one of the corners and enlarging it out a little bit. Okay. All right. So we're able to move pictures around, okay, take them different places and stuff like that, all because we have layers. All right. So layers helps us move those around. Now, What I want you to notice too is if we go over here, if we wanted to, we could go in here and make some changes to this picture and the sky and stuff like that, just like we did on the other picture. But we've already looked at that a little bit, and we'll be looking at it a lot more over the coming weeks as we work together. All right, now let's look at a couple other things over here that maybe we might would like to do. Now, let's just say I'm going to go over here and duplicate the background just for the fun of it. Remember, that's Command or Control J. Okay. So I duplicate that background. Now, I want to work a little bit on the picture. Maybe pull out some of the color in the sky or pull out some of the color in the water. I don't know. We'll see. Okay. So let's go up here to where it says image, and let's come down to where it says adjustments. Okay. All right. Now, let's do brightness and contrast. Let's see what that's going to do to us. So when we hit that brightness and contrast, notice it gives us a window. Now, here's the difference in what we were doing a minute ago. A minute ago, we were choosing adjustments over here and choosing brightness and contrast, okay? And when we did that, it created a layer for brightness and contrast, okay? But when we do the image and adjustments up here and we choose brightness and contrast, it will affect the entire image, not just a little bit of the image, okay? Got to keep that in mind. So if I drag the brightness further to the right, it'll affect the entire image, okay? I drag the contrast over, going to make the image more contrasty, okay? Or make it more faded looking, if you will, okay? All right. So we've got that brightness and contrast. Now there is an auto tool in here, and we can click auto, and Photoshop will analyze the picture and it'll say this is the optimum change. The only problem I have with that, y'all, is that I don't like giving Photoshop control over my images, right? I want to be the one deciding. And so I think that's a little bright. I disagree with Photoshop on there. And so I might pull it back a little bit and add a little bit more contrast. To me, that looks better, but hey, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, right? So I also want you to notice here in the bottom of this window, there's a preview button, okay? If I turn the preview off, that'll give me the before. If I turn the preview on, that'll give me after. So before and after, you're able to see what the change was and maybe adjust the change some more if you need to. All right. So I'm going to cancel that right now. And I'm going to go back up here to image and let's go to adjustments and let's go to color balance. Okay. This will be fun. Now, what this one does, it allows us to change the colors in certain areas of the picture. Okay. It's kind of fun. In that shadows, that's pretty much self-explanatory. Okay. So if I choose shadows, all this shadowy stuff that may be around the tree right there, right? When I make these sliders move, it's going to adjust just the dark parts of the image. You see that coming up there? The tree's getting a bit darker, the grass is getting darker because there's a lot of shadows in that part of the image, right? Okay. And I can keep pulling, just depending on how I want the picture to look. I can adjust the pictures of that area. Highlights. There's a lot of highlights up here in the sky, the bright parts of the picture. If I said, I want the bright parts to be bluer, notice now that water and the sky is getting a little more blue. You see that happening? Maybe we'll add a little bit of teal to it. I don't know. You can use your own judgment. We can hit the preview on and off and see before and after, and we can see what we did there to that particular image. Okay. So what I want you to do this week is I want you to go into here, open a couple of images, and I want you just to play with these particular adjustments up here. And I want you to see what each one of them does. Okay, that's really easy. You're just going to open an image and you're going to look and see what that adjustment does to your image. All right. Now, how do you open an image in Photoshop? Well, you're just going to go up here and click on File, and you're going to choose on Open. And when you choose Open, it's going to take you to the last folder that you used. In my case, it was these images here that we're going to be using in the class over the next coming weeks. And then you'll choose the image you want and choose open. All right. Now, the next thing, once you've done that, the next thing I want you to do is I want you to open 4 images and make them into a collage. Now, I'm going to demonstrate it one time for you, and then you're going to take over from there. Okay. Now, I'm going to go ahead and not save all these. I'm just going to close them out and show you what it is that we're going to do. You're going to love this. It's a lot of fun. I'll go here. Now, there's that opening screen I told you about, pops up when you come in here. Okay. Now, so I'm going to go here to open. Okay. Now I choose open and it just chooses a folder. Now, y'all, when I'm working on projects in Photoshop, one of the things I do that I have found really helpful is I gather all the images for a particular project that I'm working on and put them in a folder. That way I don't have to go searching all over my computer. It just makes it a little easier. Okay. Now, I want us to choose 4 images. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to choose one and I'm going to hold the Command or Control key down. And then I'm going to hit 2, image 3, image 4. Okay. 4 images. All right. So I hold the Control key down and I select 4 images. All right. Then I'm going to choose open. Now it takes just a moment and it's going to open every one of those images in an individual tab across the top of the page. Notice right here, there's image 1. There's image 2, there's image 3, and there's image 4. Okay, got it? Okay, now here's what I want to do. I want to go in here and I want to open another image, but I just want it to be a blank page. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to File, and we're going to go to New. Okay, now this little board's going to come up. It's going to say, okay, what kind of new image are you wanting to create? All right. So it's going to, I know I want it to be a photo. So I choose photo. And it says, okay, what size image do you want to make? All right. I tell you what, just for the fun of it, let's go up here and tell it we want to do a 7x5. Okay. That'd be big enough. So we'll go there. And notice when we go over there, notice all the settings for that particular piece are right there. Or if you want to view other presets, you can move that down like that, okay? And I tell you what, let's do a 10x8. I think that'd be better for us. Give us more room for what we're going to do. So I went to File and New, and then this window opened, and then I looked for the 10x8, all right? So I'm going to choose that. And I'm going to choose create. Now watch what happens. It gave me a 10x8 piece of paper, if you will. All right. Now, what I want you to do for your homework is I want you to bring each one of these 4 images onto this piece of white paper and create a collage. All right. This is going to remind you a lot about layers. How we're going to do it. We're going to do it really easy way. Okay. We're going to come up here to this picture. Okay. We're going to do now take your pencil and write these shortcuts down. Okay. You're going to do Control or Command A, which that means all, Command or Control A. Then you're going to do Command or Control C for copy. Okay. Got that? Then you're going to go to the blank page and you're going to do Command or Control V and Victor. And you're going to click that. And it's going to put it on the page. But what you're going to notice, okay, is that the picture that we brought in is a whole lot bigger, than the sheet of paper, right? Remember a minute ago, I told you, if we hold the Shift key down and we grab one of these corners up here and drag it down, we can make it a whole lot. We can resize it. You may have to move it up a couple times depending on the size of the picture you bring in. Okay. So notice what it's doing. It's getting smaller. Okay. So if I go here, I'm just holding the Shift key and I'm dragging it down, and then I'm just dragging it over anywhere I wanted to put it on the page. All right. So there's one. All right. Then we're going to go back and get the other picture. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to do Control A for all. Control C to copy. I'm going to go back to my blank page. Okay. Okay. Where did I lose? Y'all, what have I done here? Hold on. We're going to get there. Let's see. Oh, it didn't, for some reason, it didn't resave. Hold on a minute, y'all. I'm not sure what I did wrong. Hold on. Let's redrag that one small again. Y'all bear with me. Okay. There we go. Now we're getting it smaller. I'm holding down the shift key. Okay. And I'm just making the image smaller. Okay. Got that? Then I think I'll go up here and click on the layer one time just to turn that off so it stays there. Okay. All right. Now let's go back to another image now. So we just did that one. So I'm going to go ahead and close that one out. All right. So I'm going to go here to the next one. There we go. Then I'm going to do a Control A and a Control C. Then I'm going to go back to my blank image and I'm going to do a Control V. All right. Going to put it down there again. Then I'm going to do the same thing again. I'll hold the shift key down and I'm going to drag it down, release the shift key and drag it over again so I can get another handlebar. Hold the shift key down, pull it down like that. Let go of the shift key, go back here. Notice it's making it smaller. That's good. Hold the shift key. You can make these any size you want to. You can have them overlap if you want to. Totally up to you. Okay. So then I'm going to click on that layer. Notice it's made every time we pull an image in, it's putting another layer up there. Okay. All right. Now let's go back here. Let's close this one out because we're through with that one. Let's get the fourth one. Okay. Control A, our third one. Control C. Okay. Back here. And we're going to do a Control V to paste. Okay. There we go again. We got to resize it. Hold the shift key down. Drag it down. Let the shift key go. Click the picture and drag it back into on the frame. Hold the shift key down. Drag it down again. Let the shift key go and let the mouse go and drag this back up there. You see what we're doing? We're just gradually making it smaller. Okay. All right. And then maybe we'll put that one right there. All right. Then we notice we got another layer up here. Okay. Now let's get one more and we're through with that one. Okay. So go back here. So we're going to do Control A, Control C. I bet you got this now, don't you? Control V. All right. There's our giant picture again. So we're going to come here, hold the shift key down, drag it down here, release the shift and the mouse, drag the picture back up again. Hold the shift key down, drag it down smaller, release the shift in the mouse, bring it up. Oh, I just messed it up, y'all. That's okay. I'm going to do another shortcut called Control Z, which undoes. Okay. Now, Control C, release the mouse, release the shift, go back up here again. Control, and we're going to do the shift key, drag it down again, release the mouse, release the shift. And we've got ourselves a picture going on up here now. Now we've brought in 4 different images, okay? And we've got a nice little collage going on here. Now, here's what I want you to do. So when you're working on this image, this is your homework, right? Okay. I want you to decide, I want you to notice what the layers do. For instance, the layers, the way they're stacked on this page, you know, what layer is on top, what picture is on top of what picture, depends on the layer that's over here on the side, right? So whatever layer is closest to the top, it's going to be on top of the other images. Now, let's say I want this image right here to be on top of everything instead of underneath. Well, all I need to do is left click and drag that picture to the top. Now notice that picture lays on top of everything else. You see that? Okay. So you're going to adjust the picture the way you want to adjust it to what you like. Okay. Now you may say, well, Steve, what if I want to just click on images and maybe make them like side by side or something like that? Yeah, you can do that too. Okay. You can just move them anywhere you want to just by clicking on the image. Okay. So we've got a nice little collage going on here. Now, do you see those little purple lines that are appearing every now and then in the middle of the screen, or maybe at the top of an image? Those are called smart guides, and they help you. Like, for instance, this particular smart guide that's up right there, that purple line, that's telling me that the edges of this image and this image are lined up. Okay, so that's kind of helpful. If I drag this one over here, there we go. Now it's telling me that this right hand edge is lined up with this edge. Okay. Now, you may say, well, Steve, I think I'd like to maybe have the images be different sizes, not all the same size. Well, you can do that too. Remember, when they're on the page, you're just simply going to hold the shift key down and resize the picture any way that you want it. You click on another image. Okay. And then you hold the shift key down and make it another size if you want to. Okay. So you can go on here and make these images any size you want to, just simply by clicking on them and then coming over here and putting them in place. Let's see, if I hold down the shift key, let's line up that side edge. There we go. Okay. And then maybe we go down here and we're going to move this one over a little bit. It's not quite the same size. So let's hold the shift key down and drag it. There was our smart guide that showed up. And then maybe we go here. And so maybe this is a good album page right here for some, maybe you're telling a story or something and you want to put text up here or down here about that particular event that took place when you were out at Cades Cove during the fall. I don't know. Okay. So that's your homework. Is I want you to work on these images, open 2 or 3 images and play with those different image adjustments. Okay. And then I want you to go in there and I want you to open a new page. Okay. Remember, new page is just file and new and choose 10 by 8. Okay. And then I want you to open 4 images and place those 4 images on that blank piece of paper. And your images, depending on the images you bring on, they might be smaller or they might be larger. So you use the same principle. If you bring an image on and they are really, really small, and you need them bigger, just hold that shift key down and make it smaller or bigger, whatever you need it to be. Okay. That's the secret to know, is just to hold that shift key down, grab one of those little corners and pull it either larger or smaller that you need to make the picture. And then you'll have a beautiful little piece to here. Can we get a little creative with the collage, like playing with some of the other tools? You sure can. I am happy for you to get creative. In fact, we're going to take your collage and get a little, I'll show you one little creative trick here that I like in working with images. So this seems to be my main image here. So I'm going to go here and I am going to double click in that gray area. Okay. That's the little trick that comes up on another class, but you can look at it now. And I want to put a drop shadow below that picture. So I'm going to come down here. I'm going to click the word drop shadow. And when I do, notice it put a drop shadow below there. I can adjust the placement of that drop shadow right here, just simply by going on here and changing the setting here. Okay. Or I can actually click on the picture itself and move that drop shadow around a little bit. I can choose the distance of the drop shadow from the picture. Okay. I can choose the opacity of the drop shadow, however I want it to be. Okay. So there's one little creative trick that you can do right there. And then I click OK. And look at that. Now we've got this beautiful drop shadow, making that picture just stand out on the page. All right. Now I'm going to show you one more little trick. You see that FX right there? It's kind of small, but a little FX. If I hold the alternate key down and click and drag that FX to this picture, it copies that very same exact effect. If I hold the alternate key down, drag that FX there, look at there. And then let's hold the alternate key down and drag it here. Look at that. Now we've got the pictures really standing out on the page. Okay. Okay, another question. Should it be landscape or people, or does it matter? It doesn't matter. You be as creative as you want to be, and just have fun. Have fun with it. And remember, give me a call or give me a message on Facebook or Teams, Facebook, whoo, on Teams or on email, and I'll be glad to help you if you forget something that's going on. Just be sure and let me know, and I'll help you with it. I love playing with Photoshop, and I love helping other people learn to do it. I hope this has been good today. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you learned a few things, and that you're just going to be excited about what you can do in the future. All right. So, oh, and listen, there's one of our weeks. Let's see, the 19th. That's next week. Next week, when these classes were set up, uh we had not had Juneteenth on the calendar yet, and so next week we will not meet, but we're going to roll everything forward a week. Okay, so don't worry about next week because that's a holiday, and but just know that we'll pick up. So you really got 2 weeks to do this assignment, so you're gonna be in really good shape. All right, any questions? Okay. Well, I'll stick around a few minutes if you need anything. Otherwise, I will see. Let's see, where are the recordings going to be posted? I'm not sure because I didn't start the recording, so I'm not sure where it's going to be. Um, let's see. I will start recording from now on, and I will put them out on a YouTube channel where everybody can download them. How's that sound? Good deal. Thanks, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care of yourselves. Bye.